There's the sun and the moon when the sky's looking blue. Light is catching your eye like it's meant to.
Hello, welcome to my channel for Evolved Humans. I am Ms. Day. This is a collective reading, so right away, like the first thing, sorry, just a second. So the first thing that I got instantly was that someone has, like if this reading is for you, someone has raging emotions, but you've got a passive way about you. Like you have to be kind of passive about it. And I feel like this comes from your youth and your childhood and your tendency towards people that were kind of overly assertive around you. I think this is for someone, it even feels kind of feminine. Like, and that doesn't mean it has to be for a female, but it's like, it feels like there is this roaring emotional experience that just isn't spoken. But then at the same time, it's like you've just had to be passive with that. So super not aligned with the body. Like that's not fair. That's not a peaceful experience inside. And that's what this feels like. It's like this reading is for someone who I think was surrounded. This could have been work. This could have been school and work. This could have been like multiple environments that you've experienced, and I feel like you don't know why. And there were two-faced people everywhere, like around you. Like I feel like people were just two-faced. Just kind of backstabbing. And I think that you had to remove yourself from a lot of these environments. Toxic. And then it feels like this was a part of your upbringing where it not just, okay, I don't mean your upbringing, so like your parents and your siblings created this experience. I think that this is something that all the way to now, like I consider adult years us still being children, emotionally developing, even if we're like physically developed already. There's still all these emotional waves we have to ride, and we go to the next one or we stay there and do it again. And this is like someone who you have so much pent up. And you know it, and it's like it hurts you that you have so much pent up because you know that wasn't fair, you know that's not right, you know that other people have gone through theirs. But it's like something just makes you feel very untrusting of opening all of that up. And it feels like a moment where you can do that. Because this outcome is like you're going to need your willpower. You're going to need to recognize that you have the ability to develop more strength. Like whatever you go through can be something that grows you. And this feels like you have gotten used to kind of sinking into the background in a way that you may not even register in your own mind, that you see yourself as almost less than. And I don't mean that in a literal value. I mean, it feels like there's something about your voice coming out that you almost just kind of feel like, no, I'm just not one of those people. No, that's not, oh, that's what they do. Oh, wow, I wish I could do that. Oh, so cool. I wonder how they do that. It's like you just don't ever assert yourself in that way. It's like the opposite of what you're used to doing is what you need. It's like it's held you back. And I feel like whoever this reading is for, there's so many moments that you've been like, why does this keep happening to me? And I think it's because you're used to, this is not, I hate it when it's like, well, it's because of you. No, it's more like what they want you to do in order to not draw that to you in the future. Like a control thing you can do now. is get in there in your mind and start realizing where you started having to become passive in order to get through, because it held you back emotionally. And I think that in that way that you were kind of forced to be passive, it made you oblivious to your own inner strength. I think the reason that this felt feminine is because it feels like this might have come through the feminine. That's wild. Because I was thinking earlier today, like, what an interesting life it must be for someone who's going to be a nun. Like, because my grandmother was raised by nuns after the age of 14. And there were a lot of horrible experiences just with like how they were raised. And a lot of those things that like a lot of people grew up in are described as things that are mental illnesses and disorders. Things that we don't want to be, continuing to spread. We want to fix it. So it's like there's this crazy feeling that whoever this is for, you've had like this inner fire, this inner strength all along, but it's like you didn't get to ever use it, or you just like stopped believing, you stopped fighting for yourself. And I don't feel like that's your fault, but I feel like you have to pick up where you left off. Sometimes when there's no one fighting for us in our youth, we don't know how to fight for ourselves, because the only way that we learn is truly by example. Like the only way we really use information that we take in is by experiencing it being used, either by ourselves, so we do it over and over, or by others. So it feels like there were examples. Like it was, that thing that they say, like, do as I say, not as I do? Nobody does that. Like, no kids do that. People don't do that. We hear that and we're like, oh, okay. But like, we do what we're taught to do. And I feel like that's kind of what this is. This feels like you've settled with this false identity, this false image of your own self throughout your entire life. That you have to be quiet because there's no reason for you to talk about it. There's no reason for you to speak out. But it's like, I think that you never got to align that inner strength with your outer environment. Like we have to, crazy. So that's something else that we need. This is crazy, but like there's something that you need, and it builds like a strength of will. When we say someone's very strong-willed, yes, people are born like very strong-willed and determined, but that can build. It builds. That's why it's so neat to have strong will, because it's so hard to will yourself through hard things that suck to experience. But it's like the outcome is so worth it. And I feel like you need to know that like that was kind of just stopped. It was just halted. And because this feels like such a a stunted type of development thing where it's emotional, where like you didn't get to process your emotions, and a lot of processing is speaking them out. But like we need the ability to have a strong will. So this makes me think of someone that, like, when I've been around small children and other adults, some adults, like this might sound triggering. I'm not trying to be rude. I'm just saying this is something I personally have experienced and believe. But like we need to have the ability to decide. We already know that. That's why we have it. But it's like I've known adults who like just think about a toddler. Don't do that. Don't go into that room. If you give them one opportunity not to do it, and then as soon as they don't do it, you grab their hand and pull them away, a lot of kids' natural instinct is to fight, not because they're being corrected. We can be corrected, but because they have lost control over their own body, it takes away the sense of free, the sense of decision, the sense of self. Like, I identify by what I choose to do with what I know. And children do the same. So it's like, that's how I feel like you need to view yourself, because I feel like you almost kind of developed in this way where you do, when you do turn inward and you see the ways that you kind of align with maybe words and terms that you've heard out there, because they're everywhere. Like, we're all labeled something, you know, we all fit into that. We all fit with some label or 900 of them. But like, I feel like some of you, when you turn inward, you're almost already irritated at yourself for being all of those things. And that inhibits your ability to solve them and to kind of like remap your own identity in there. And I think that this is like the first thing I got. As soon as I started to do this reading, it was like, you need to heal. And you need to stop being angry at yourself for all of the weight that you have carried and all of the reactions that you have had that were never because of you. Your identity has nothing to do with how you operate currently. So it's like, I mean, it has something to do with it. I'm just saying, like, that is not, it's not your fault that you have to refigure out how to process, but you have to be the one to pick up where you left off. So it's like, you have to stop being too angry to kind of travel down memory lane when it comes to moments you felt silenced. And it's like, I think a part of that anger, okay, this is a crazy part. I think a part of that anger that you feel is because of that blocked ability to process out loud. Like, I think you still need some fits and outbursts in your life. I know it sounds kind of weird, but it's got to come out somewhere along the line. And a lot of times during the adolescent years, like when kids go through a lot of ups and downs and moods, they're reevaluating the world with a new perception. So a lot of times they have to let go, heal, understand, process in a new way experiences they have that are tied to their parents' decisions that they've made in their lifetime. Or maybe the way that their grandparents actually operate with their parents. Things that they start observing are now observed with a new grown perception, with new understandings of the same information. And this feels like when you do kind of turn inward, if you're feeling that sort of like instant pissy feeling, which I can relate to. I used to experience that when I was kind of being run by my eating disorder. One of them. I could be in my mind, know that what I was doing was not good for myself. I could know all of the reasons I didn't even want to do it. And I would be pissed at myself for even having to deal with that. And then I'd be pissed at everyone around me for even having to deal with me, having to figure my own crap out. You know what I mean? And it's like, it didn't make sense because it was a blocked process in here. I wasn't processing fully because I didn't have everything. I wasn't even nourishing myself. And I was mad at myself at the same time. And this is where I feel like a huge part of this is, like, you have so many raging emotions. And I feel like they have got to go somewhere. Like, this reading is to tell you that your healing is picking up your development and getting it where it needs to be. And that healing means cut yourself a break. Like, cut yourself a break when you feel that sort of like pissy feeling. Like, tell yourself, no, I actually want to feel better, so I have to do this. I deserve to do this for myself. And like, that's what I started doing when I started getting a grip on my own emotional reactions to like nourishing myself. I had to just be like, no, I need time right now, to go connect to my body and see what kind of feeling I want to feel inside of it, so that I don't harm myself and self-sabotage when I know better. And I feel like, okay, a huge part of this is just your ability to not want to cause problems for those around you. I think that the ways that you were wounded by being kind of silenced or kind of kept in your own role, however that was placed upon you, I think that you kind of didn't want. It's like you were so tender and emotionally spongy that you just kind of let it happen, and you were like, oh, okay, I just don't matter right now. Oh, okay, I just don't matter right now. Oh, okay, I just don't. And that became a habit. And then like as we come forward, like I said with those adolescent years, like sometimes that happens again after you go through your spiritual awakening type of stuff, because you're like, wait a minute, why did they say that to me? Wait, why did I never say, holy crap, I can't believe you're talking to me like that? Like so many things come into our view, and we have a new opportunity to evaluate how we feel about those things in our body. That's why I compared it to that eating disorder moment, because it's like, wait a minute, why don't you take a moment when you're not doing something for yourself, or when you're feeling that kind of pissy feeling as you start to go inward, and stop stopping your own growth because of what they did. Like, no, it is not fair for you to have the burden of carrying this crap. But it's like the burden of healing it is yours. It's what comes after it that makes that healing the opportunity. So like that healing is aligning that past inner child with this full-grown perception now. So if you were looking for that medium, I think it's the fact that you've got to willingly start to bleed some things out. And I just keep thinking that a lot of you need to watch some things that hit you emotionally. Like I think there are movies that kind of bring you back to your childhood or adolescent years for reasons, and there are reasons you connected to those things at that time. And sometimes taking a trip down memory lane can be easy like that, where you're like, why did I like that show so much? I think I related to that character, and I didn't really think about that with new grown eyes until now. And that can give you a new view of your own identity as who you truly are, not based on what your human has done thus far. So I also think that you have a lot more inner strength than you're aware of. And I think that because of the two-faced type of stuff, that has to do with, I think there were a lot of things that were not meant to wound you, but the disappointments in close people wounded you. Like I think being disappointed in people you looked up to or thought highly of, I think that really cut you deeply. Because you saw the light in them, and then you were like, oh, like that's what the light does, but it's not. And then I feel like this thing with right now, like there's such an earthly type of feeling too, where I think that your body needs to feel good. I don't know how that is. Sometimes like it's just lighting a candle, it's changing the color of your walls, like whatever it is. I was just thinking that today, like my favorite color I've ever painted walls, it just made it look sunny no matter what type of temperature it was outside. It was just this crazy sunshiny color. And my walls are gray now, so anyway, so yeah, I think one of the hugest messages, like the huge message, is you need a lot of healing, but that is the growth. Like that's the path forward now. That's the walk. Open up the past and like start to look, because now with this grown place that you're into, I feel like that's another reason they're trying to draw forward. You've got this strength in you. And someone's looking down at like a feminine, like there's a past loved one type too. This is not for everyone, but I feel like there's just this feeling of like, I keep hearing this song. I have heard it before in these readings on here in the main channel. And it's that, I think it's Neil Sedaka. It's like this oldie, like, you've turned into, or what happened to that funny face, that little tomboy now wears satins and lace. It's like, I feel like there's someone on the other side kind of just like looking at you with this admiration. And I don't know who that's for, but it feels like it's for someone in here that really needs to be seen as their true identity, which is so much stronger than your human has been able to display up to this point. And I think that you need to turn that anger into anger for yourself and be like, okay, let it bleed. Like, what do I need to do? Watch the old shows you used to binge on. Watch the old movies listen to the old songs that made you cry when you needed to feel. Whoo! And I even just thought of this moment in Walking Dead a long time ago when Daryl like put a cigarette on his arm because he needed to feel something because he was blocking so hard. I'm not saying to burn yourself, dear God, don't hurt yourself. But that type of thing, when it's not physical, don't do it physically. But when it's emotional, sometimes cracking open a memory, it's fully in your control. You can totally control it. You can be like, what could I use? And then put that question out into the universe with a positive attitude, not with the anger, but with a positive attitude, and see what pops into your head throughout the next hour. Just see what pops into your head and be like, that's the answer. And it could even come in hours later just because you finally talked to someone throughout your day because you work at home, something like that. But trust it. Go with it. And use that new sense of self-identity. Okay, I do have more strength. Whatever messages come in might actually pull me from the past up into now. And then you get a new experience. So I'm going to leave it at that. Let me know in the comments if this resonates. This is a pretty crazy one too. Feels pretty deep. So I hope that you're having a good night. I will see you in the next reading. Subscribe to the channel if you feel like any of the readings resonate at all. And join my members only content if you are interested in connecting to your own vehicle better so that you can connect to your guides and high frequency. Okay, have a good night.